All right, it is Thursday, May 26th. They said this, the fans have been wanting to know where the big guy is. The big guy's been. What's he doing? He's been more projects around the house. Let's just get right into it. Here's Riggo.
All right, Todd, you're right. I almost forgot your name when I walked in.
You scared the hell out of me.
And I've only known you for, what, 30 years?
Yeah, 30 years. You scared the hell out of me. I felt a shadow lurking, and I was like, whoa, the big guy's here.
I've had all kinds of stuff going on. I've been in Chicago. I've been down to the Mickey Steele golf tournament where I saw Billy Kilmer. Billy looks, what was it, Fernando Lamas? He looks marvelous. He looks marvelous.
Is it formaldehyde? How is he? He is incredible.
He's got it going on.
He is absolutely incredible.
But I will say this. He looks the same as when he played.
Right.
So he looked 80 when he played.
This is true.
But he looks 80 now, but he's that youthful 80. I mean, you'd never know.
Remember, he couldn't run a lick, right?
No.
He was banged up and dinged up. I remember him taking some vicious shots.
Well, when you used to watch, if you ever watch old films, when I came down here in 1976, you'll see this guy struggled on every play, physically. He's like, I am now getting out of bed. And let me tell you, folks, that ain't good. That ain't good at all. But yeah, he's amazing. I mean, he literally, Billy looks like he did 20, 30 years ago.
What are you talking about, Riggo? And I sound the same, too.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, his voice. Now I can't remember because I think I was sitting there in awe the whole time, sitting there talking to him. And then, because I was down there and I had to go, like I said, I've been to Chicago. So I was on my way to Chicago. I went down, a good friend of mine, Steve Kelly, had me come down and, just say hi and all that stuff. And so on my way out, Bosco walks in, Jeff Bostic. And so I literally had time to say, Bosco, I'm just leaving. Here's your seat. It's good to see you. And I'll catch up with you later. And Bosco will be in town, I think it's June 9th for the
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks from today, the gala, the USO.
There's a big USO gala at the MGM.
That is correct. My wife has put it, and Bosco will get a speaking part. I have a speaking. We're going to be presenters for awards that they give out at the. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like Hollywood. I think LM's taking it in another direction. That's my wife, Lisa Marie, where you bring up some, I guess what you'd say, dignitaries like they do out there. The actors give out the awards or whatever. Anyway,
you're not going to smack a presenter, like keep my wife's name out your mouth. You're not going to have a Will Smith moment.
By the way, you're the one that sent me the thing on the. That's a football move now, isn't it? Didn't you send me that? They got some coach now says give him a Will Smith.
Give him a Will Smith.
Which you hit him. Which now I never thought of it at the time that it happened because everybody said, he was open-handed. He hit him he slapped him. Well, I don't know if you use the butt of the hand. That's a little bit more than a slap.
You can be knocked out with the slap.
Oh,
there's
easy.
Professional slap fighting.
Oh, there is.
We're going to do a whole segment on that one day. But yeah, there's a high school coach, high school, and we'll play it sometime. But he was teaching kids the new Will Smith move for the.
It was basically a head slap
for the D lineman, right? Deacon Jones with the head slap, and hit him over here with the rip, and then give him the Will Smith.
Well, that's right, rip Will Smith. I'm thinking now that Will Smith stole that from Deacon Jones. Deacon had that move down perfectly. So anyway, then I go to Chicago. My wife, Lisa Marie, as everybody, well, most people, well, if you're an ex-football player and you played before 1993, you know that she was very instrumental in helping raise the salaries, or not the salaries, the pensions of a lot of the old guys. And
your overall benefits plan, right?
Yes. And everybody was most appreciative. And Mike Ditka, who's been working in the same vein, if you will, and he started, I think 15, maybe 20 years ago, Gridiron Greats, and the whole purpose of that charity was to raise money for some of the former players who were on hard times. So they kind of they dovetailed. But when I think about it, and I told this to LM on the way back, it's actually like she should have invited him over to our house and given him a trophy or an award for doing what he did, because in the big scheme of things, one could make the argument she's raised considerably more money than Mike has.
Right.
And she did it in a year, didn't take 15.
Well, let me just put a little color commentary on this, because knowing for the average person, the average fan out there, not understanding conceptually that the NFL and the unbelievable sized business that is now approaching $20 billion annually in revenue. And today's modern day player and the salaries and the retirement plans and the benefit plans, and they have more buckets of money to draw upon and based on years of service. So the league is finally doing right by the players. They have not been doing right for the pre-1993 players. And when you have Hall of Fame football players that are dying destitute and bedridden and with the worst health care, the worst everything, I mean, you would be stunned at the stories that have come out of this. And for Lisa Marie to embrace this cause and what, you said Mike Ditka and guys and everybody trying to bring awareness to it. And everybody thought, oh, those rich millionaires, they're this.
Yeah.
And that. The pension and the plan for guys and benefits overall of your generation. And the TV, I call you guys the TV generation because you guys were in the 70s and the 80s and what brought the mass appeal to the fans and made this game what it is today. And they had the worst retirement plan of any of the 4 North American professional major league sports by miles. And you would be stunned at how little the pension, and for guys, it's a pretty violent game, as we know.
It was even more violent.
A lot more violent back then.
A lot more sociopaths playing back 20 or 30 years ago. And they were allowed to be sociopaths.
Yeah, thank God they were playing in the NFL.
They've weeded them out. Yeah, they'd have been behind bars someplace else.
So that's what we're talking about with in the organization was fair. F-A-I-R.
Fairness for athletes in retirement.
Right, in which your wife led the charge and I believe got $1 billion or more out of the league as part of in this last collective bargaining agreement. And also,
that wouldn't have been possible if the current players hadn't voted on it. But it was really a thing of awareness, making people aware of just exactly everything you just said. Because I think even current players perhaps thought that everybody was living high on the hog just because you played football.
Right.
But just to put things in perspective, and I know the draft, we just had the draft, right? My first year salary and signing bonus was $20,000 was my salary, and $45,000 was my signing bonus. So didn't we look it up? It would have been like, what, $15 million or something like that?
Yeah, it commensurate with today's game.
But yet at the same time, now keep this in mind, there were older players back then that had played in the 40s and 50s, and I didn't ever want to become one of these guys, which I never really did. It was what it was. Where they go, these kids today, they're making all this money. I mean, because they were making like $500. I mean, it was.
Yeah, you were a young whippersnapper over there with your signing bonus.
With my $45,000.
What do you mean you're not working 3 jobs?
The truth. A lot of those guys had to work. But anyway, that's what we went there for. Had a great time. Chicago is a weird town in a lot of ways. I mean, of course, I didn't go out or anything. Basically went to the room, stayed in my room, went down, and we had a couple of functions to go to, and then we came back. But all in all, it was a really fun night. I saw Jim McMahon. Jim's getting around. He has a big boot on his foot. He went to a doctor to get some kind of surgery, minor surgery. Next thing you know, he gets an infection, and it looks like he was bitten by a fer-de-lance. I mean, in other words, what is it called?
Homeopathic?
Hemotoxic venom, as opposed to neurotoxic. Yeah, and because the tissue, he had a picture of it. The tissue is just all eaten away.
So it's like
it was bad. I'll tell you what it looked like. It looked not nearly as bad, but very Alex Smith-esque.
That necrosis.
Yes,
where you're
that's
just,
the key word right there, necrosis.
And God, it was like I almost said necrophilia again, and it's not that. It's the necrosis.
That would be Sam
Kinison.
Kinison was into the.
Oh!
I'm dead. Oh. I'm dead.
That's a great bit. That's a great bit.
That's one of the funniest
But Jim
things
McMahon, John, he's Mr. Barefoot. He's known for playing golf barefoot.
I'm wondering if that's where the affection came from. You bring up a good point. I never even thought of that. I saw an old classmate of mine, as you will, Jack Youngblood. Spent a lot of time with Jack. He still looks as menacing as ever.
Yeah,
big guy. I had no idea because he and I came into the league same year, 1971. And his birthday's in January, but he was born in 1950. So I'm going, I'm older than you, Jack? I figured sure he'd be older than me, but he's not. So anyway, what else was there? Oh, and then this was before we left. about 2 weeks ago, I was down doing some work. I had you got the photographs or the video of me hauling
Yeah.
the boxes, right?
It looked like a trailer.
It didn't look right. It didn't look right. It was my canoe trailer that I was doing double time with it. So I had these huge plywood, 3/4 inch plywood, they were heavy as hell. And then the side of my house has got a real steep bank, and I was trying to get them out to the front yard, and it was just, it was a nightmare basically, and it took all I had to get them out there. But that isn't the real story. The real story is, while I was doing this, and you don't know about this, that because I was downstairs, and our cats, they're cats. What do? They sleep all day until you decide to start going outside. We got one cat in particular. His name is, actually, when we got him, they said his name was Prince, and I said, we can't call him Prince. We'll call him the cat formerly known as Prince. But he is Prince because he's still, but I call him Mung or Mungie. So Mung, he somehow, some way, they both, because I left the door open downstairs in the basement, they both got outside. And I'm, so I'm sitting up there in the living room, and I look out, and I see the youngest cat, Rowdy, also known as Simple Jack.
You do Simple Jack now.
He does a very good Simple Jack. Anyway, I see him outside. I'm going, oh man, the cat's outside. So we get him inside. And then, has anybody seen Mung? And so we start turning the house upside down. No, Mung. Mung is on the lamb. And so I get on my bike. I go down into the park. I ride all, looking to see. But it's so overgrown over there. There's no way I'd have seen him really, but you're calling his name thinking that he might.
So you are calling the name like a lost dog.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm seeing Riggo riding on his bike in the park.
Hey, have you seen a cat? Have you seen a cat? Have you seen a cat? It was like, what are you gonna do? I mean, I wasn't ever really, what do you call it? Where you get to that point where you start going, oh man, this. The one thing that scared me the most, because we have so many people that come by our house to go into the park, is he got out, went out by the road, and somebody snatched him. And that happens quite a bit. Pets get stolen on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So after about 20 minutes, and my wife was out looking, and she was kind of backtracking where I'd already been, and I'd come around, and I walk into the house, and I look outside, and here he comes running up the steps. So it was,
hey,
as they
everybody,
say,
just checking out the neighborhood.
Exactly. Reminds me of a friend of mine who was. We weren't even in school, and he had a babysitter, and he's gone, and the whole town. This is back in 1953, 4, 5, somewhere in there. The whole town is organizing, and we got, I forget who it was. Okay, so-and-so, you guys go this and search that area. I mean.
It went Tommy Lee Jones. I want every outhouse, every hen house, every chicken house within a 10-mile radius.
They went Tommy Lee Jones. And so they're looking all over the town for him. And somebody, for whatever reason, they decide to pull the couch back, and he's asleep. This has been after an hour and a half, 2 hours. He's been sleeping behind a couch. I mean, it was like upside down. It happened, and that's kind of the way we were to a certain extent when we couldn't find the Mungsterd. It was everybody was all worked up. So anyway, it does seem like a long time since we did the show. I'm glad to be back. I did some stuff yesterday. Oh, by the way, the award I'm kind of jumping around here because I'm not back.
Jump around.
I'm not back in my usual rhythm or whatever. It was the Sylvia Mackey Award because Sylvia was so instrumental.
John Mackey's wife.
His widow is obviously John. He passed away several years back. But the 88 plan is another thing that Sylvia Mackey got the NFL to coalesce and develop for players that actually have mental disorders, that are discovered
neurological, mental, however they manifest
neurological
themselves.
is probably a better way of saying it.
So
that was the award that she got. And then we'll finish it off with yesterday, I had the pleasure of going down to the Naval Academy in Annapolis. We were the guests of the superintendent of the school, Admiral Sean Buck, and watched the Blues.
Woo!
I mean, he gets called them the Blues. Well, they're the Blue Angels. But so, whenever you get around people that use, the slang or whatever, it's like
JP5.
Exactly. It's, whenever you use the acronyms and all that stuff. So I started calling them the Blues. Yeah, what do you mean? I've been seeing the Blue people go, what are you talking about? But I knew. But anyway, we were up at 5 stories up. In a new building they have down there, that's their cyber building, which is like unique in the whole country. There's people that come there. I don't know. I don't want to say too much because an assassin could show at my house because it might be. I don't know if I'm giving up classified. I don't think. No, I'm
You'll
not.
get a call from a 3-letter agency.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was very. So you're high up over the Severn River where the pilots do their stuff. And for 2 of the pilots came in. The weather was blowing.
Let me back it up for 1 second for those that didn't pick up on the Blues. We're talking about the Blue Angels.
Blue Angels, yeah.
The most incredible pilots and shows, and kind of tying in with Top Gun here, that debuts today.
Yeah. Well, what is that?
Tom Cruise.
He's back?
Yes.
And now what? He's a commander in Top Gun?
They actually have a top secret mission. There's only one guy that can come in and train these
and
cats.
He's the pilot, the former pilot?
He's the former pilot that comes back. Oh, it's all the rage. It debuts today. Not to get you sidetracked, but we all talking about the American badass Blue Angels.
Yeah, and then of course you got the Thunderbirds. Now the Blue Angels are naval pilots, right? And then you got the Thunderbirds, who are actually Air Force pilots. They fly. I think they fly the same planes. They were flying F-18s, and it seems like everybody, every general down there, and there were several, or admirals. They were all fighter pilots. It was like a football convention. A bunch of guys getting there. I don't think there was one helio guy in the whole outfit. You had to
Helicopters are for pussies.
Be fixed wing, and you had to be able to haul about 20,000 pounds of fuel in your plane. But and to watch. I missed it because I got to top, but it was windy as hell. It almost blew you off the side of the building there. But they did one where the pilot comes in and we're 5 stories up, right? So that's probably 50 feet in the air, 60. I'm trying to think 10 feet to a story maybe. So that's 50 feet.
At least.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe a little. Let's say 60 feet.
Okay.
We came in, they did one, and I just caught the tail end of it. We were looking down as that plane went across the river. We were looking down on the pilot, and quite a ways down. I mean, he had to be just almost skimming the water. I mean, he could have pulled water skiers. He'd have pulled her arms off, but he could have pulled water skiers. And I forget, he probably could have probably pulled about 1,000 water skiers.
Looking for body parts in the Severn.
I'll tell you what, I tell people this, and it's honest to God truth. Having had the benefit of having ridden in an F4 and an F-16 years ago, that the first plane I went for a ride in was back in the early 80s, and it was an F4 at Andrews. And when that plane left the tarmac and that pilot lifted that nose up, and it wasn't an afterburner takeoff, that's a whole other thing entirely, because you can't use afterburners over land. It makes basically you can't
blow out windows.
You
and
can't
stuff.
go right. Well, you can't go over Mach 1. That's the whole deal. Once you get past the speed of sound, you start doing. I think that is exactly what windows start breaking out. But anyway, he tipped that plane up. And we came out of there, I don't know if we were climbing out at maybe 40, 50, 60 degrees. Because every time you come out on a commercial jet, it's nice, gentle. You can really hardly know anything's going on.
Get into it nice and slow.
Yeah, I'm back there, and it's a 2-seater, obviously. And I'm the seat behind. I wasn't sitting beside the pilot. I was in the back seat. Otherwise, they'd call that a love seat, I guess. I don't know.
You were in the piggy.
I wasn't in the love seat.
You were in the piggyback. Maybe you were in the love seat because you're going to be loving him if anything goes wrong.
You don't want to be in that seat. I know from talking to other pilots. I wouldn't know this personally, but because it's all about anticipation, and the pilot who's is actually commanding the plane, he knows exactly what's coming, and mentally you prepare for it. I've been told that no matter how seasoned both pilots are flying in a 2-seater, the guy in the front who's controlling the plane can make the guy in the back sick, because he doesn't know what's coming next.
Right.
So it's all this anticipation. But anyway, when we took off, I have to say this. I had a smile, and it was an involuntary smile that was as big as it could get, because it was for the first time in my life, I think in this kind of scenario, that I understood what the word awesome meant. Everybody uses the word awesome nowadays, right? Oh, it was awesome. Oh, awesome. I went to the concert. It was awesome. Well, there might be a concert or two that was awesome, depending on, what you had, the chemicals you used before you went to the concert. But, I mean, if you just go to the concert in your normal self, more likely you just saw a really good concert. Well, it wasn't awesome. You get the right chemicals together, it might be awesome. This, you need no chemicals. In fact, I don't think you want chemicals. It literally is. Disney, if they had a ride like this, they don't need a ride like this because they got plenty of patrons. But I'm telling you, everybody in the country would be lined up to go on a ride. I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. So anyway, to watch these guys was fun. And then they fly. They only had the two come down because the weather was so bad. And then at the end of the day, then the formation of all four of them come in. And there's the other part of this that'll give you a lump in your throat too. And that is when you understand, awesome, but you also know that the sound that they make, it gives you goosebumps. In fact, I'm getting it right now talking about it, that if you're a bad dude and you're up there wherever you're holed up and you see a squadron of these guys flying in at you, you're going, this ain't going to be my day. It just ain't going to be my day, to quote Boxcar Willie.
The power.
Exactly.
The sheer power.
And so what they do, and I called it the duck walk. I don't know what it is, but these two pilots, they come in. They're flying over the river, and they're about level with us. So they're up there 60, 70 feet in the air. Maybe they're a little bit higher. I can't remember. But they got their nose up like this, and they seem like, I asked a pilot how fast they're going. He said they're probably going about 100 miles an hour. To me, it seemed like they were even going slower than that. But they've got such power that I'm thinking they can almost hover if they want to. And then what's amazing is, that when they stomp on it, that plane is like a rocket.
Yeah.
It goes straight up.
It's incredible, isn't it? And what do when they do that formation of, is it 5 or 6 of them? And how many?
Well, they do at the end.
How many feet are they apart? 3 feet or 18 inches? Or
Wingtips, 36 inches.
Something absurd, right?
36 inches. I think somebody said 33. So the wingtips are about this far apart. And they're going, I don't know, about 400 or 500 miles an hour. And the wingtips are this far apart. And they fly in a diamond formation. And at the end, the 6 will join at the end of the show. So everybody sees them all together. And then they fly off into the sunset.
It's badass.
But you know what? I couldn't help but think, every business, I'm thinking, anything that's, I guess what you'd say has a degree of difficulty in it. The old timers will, and I'm thinking, and there was a lot of the former Angels, Blue Angels, were down in an area, watching what was going on. Now, it depends on how far back you go. In fact, Everett Alvarez, who I met recently, who was the second prisoner to serve time at the Hanoi Hilton in Vietnam. McCain came later. I don't know how much later, but he served 8 years in Hanoi. The one guy got there a month or two before him, but he served, and he was I think he was naval fighter
Aviator.
pilot, naval aviator, and was shot down in Vietnam way back when that was just getting started. And so it was guys like him down there. And I can't help but thinking, you were talking about 50 years ago now, and he was probably flying an F-4 or something like that, because that was the plane that they flew in Vietnam, I think, basically. And over the years, everybody, Northrop Grumman, whoever it be, McConnell Douglas, they come up with a different upgrade. Like now they got the F-35, so they just keep up. But that's more the electronics in that, I think, is where the advantage is. It's a single engine. It doesn't have quite the power. I don't know all the stuff about it, but I heard bits and pieces of it. But anyway, I got to believe that they're like us football players, and it's the old, as kids, they're getting paid all that money, and they got
plane's flying itself,
and exactly. All they got to do is sit there and punch a couple buttons, and it's all good.
They got Apple AirPlay in this thing today. I didn't have any stinking music.
Exactly. We had to fly 10 feet apart, and we had to rely on our eyes and our ears.
And we liked it.
Yes, I got to believe that's what they're down there doing. Going, these guys. Hell, I could do that in my sleep, and I didn't have any electronics.
We used to fly upside down.
Yeah, right. That's another thing I heard, that they used to have that move where...
I've seen that.
Yeah, that one in the front and one in the back are flying upside down.
Right.
But I think they did did away with it because it was such a difficult maneuver to do.
I think there might have been one incident.
So anyway, I've been a busy boy.
Yes,
and
you
then yesterday I was a working man. I went out and just about killed myself. I have this mulch I was putting down, and I did some of that. I also had my little, I don't know what you call it, but it's the thing. It's got the saw blade on the end of it, and, like a weed eater. I guess like a weed eater, but it's got a saw blade, and I was cutting back bamboo and all this stuff, and it wasn't any fun, Todd. And it's like everything else, when I've told you a million times when I work at my house, it's always there's a degree of difficulty. So yesterday, we'd had this rain for the last couple of days, so I'm on the side of a hill, and all this dirt is exposed, but it's not dirt, it's mud. So, and it's a big steep embankment, and you got to try and work on the side of it, and you're slipping and falling, and it's like, why? I just go, why does it have to be like this? There's got to be some place where somebody's got a level place, you walk around, you never have to worry about falling down or slipping. And, when you're older and you got the joints ain't working quite right, if I was 40 years younger, it'd still be a bitch, but at least it wouldn't be so crotchety.
I'm sorry to laugh, but your lovely wife.
I don't think you are.
She'll just happen to text me a photo, and I might be hanging out at one of my watering holes, and I see you I thought you were hitting a blocking sled at one point.
The sled was hitting me.
You were pulling a tire behind you. I'm like going, does he realize that these are OTAs and that these are optional?
You know what? Some of the stuff I was doing, I probably should call the team out here and say, hey, call the weight department and say, guys, I got some exercise you might be interested in. Of course, my thighs ain't getting any bigger, unfortunately. I think they're getting smaller. I look like stovepipe leg man.
Oh, man.
Not good.
God bless you. Do it as long. It's staying active, and you enjoy the outdoors. And
yes, I do.
You did not even know I was going to do this next story today.
No.
I'm so glad you brought that up.
I stumble into something unwittingly?
It's the yin and the yang. So this just went into effect. Fairfax County to impose fines for running bamboo. Now,
for what?
Bamboo. Wild bamboo growing and
there ain't no such thing as wild bamboo. Well, it's invasive bamboo.
Okay, yes,
bamboo is not
correct.
Indigenous to this country.
Okay, I know. I should have remembered that with the optimizer. Okay, so
I'm actually a satisficer. More 60%, 50%. Optimizer 40%. Satisficer. I looked it up. I took the test because my wife keeps telling me, "No, he's an optimizer." She tells everybody he's an optimizer. You can't. And there's a little bit of truth in that. But when I took the test, it ended up that I was 60 Satisficer and 40 Optimizer. Go figure that one.
Well, that's all adding up. It's all adding up.
Okay, go ahead. I interrupted you.
So
Shoot.
You're Montgomery County, and
yes.
I know you know a little bit about this bamboo situation.
Oh, yes, I do. Mm-hmm. I got bamboo though that's got vines in the bamboo, which means I don't know whether it's kudzu or whatever that stuff is, a Virginia creeper. But what happens is, in the bamboo, I don't know exactly, because there's a lot of different
Virginia
species.
Creeper?
Yeah, there's a vine called Virginia creeper. I mean, you go down into there's several of them because I'm looking at trying, figure out exactly what kind of rat poison gets rid of these things. But what happens is the vines get so heavy they grow up into the bamboo, and then the bamboo just lays over. So I've got a border there where I got to, move up and down it from time to time. And then it's like, I'm thinking to myself, I would never, ever need to go to the Amazon basin or anything. Don't need to. I don't need to leave home. I mean, if you wanted to import, like I said, a couple of poisonous snakes or whatever. Well, I got copperheads, so what the hell? I got the whole,
you did.
I've got a jungle right there at my yard. But anyway, back to the bamboo.
You had a bamboo issue relative to encroachment, non-encroachment.
Oh yeah,
what the law
and I put dug the ditch and put in the plastic, to keep it from, it's supposedly it hits it, goes up and over, and then you pull it up and kill it. You knock off the rhizome and it'll destroy the plant because it's got to stay connected to the mother plant. I guess I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, but I'm talking about property rights and who's responsible. Yeah,
I'm curious to know about this.
Who's responsible for what? So over in Fairfax County, at a meeting on March 22nd, they voted the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors to prevent running bamboo from spreading onto another's property, and you have to take steps to eradicate the bamboo if it encroaches onto another owner's property. Civil penalties ranging from $50 to $200 per day for violations. Now, it goes into effect January 1st.
Okay, but what you're saying is if you have bamboo on your property and it encroaches on somebody else's property, if you don't get your dirt out of their hole, bring your bamboo back to your property, you could be fined $50 to $200 a day.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm in
Now-
the wrong county, but that would be great.
You read this, and the final says the new ordinance will take effect January 1st. But you first, and you have to go and report it and go through the process. You got to be that. You got to be Karen. You got to be whatever and go through that. But the thing is, if it already exists, if your bamboo's already growing, doesn't matter. It's only after this was voted on.
Oh, so if you grow bamboo.
Well,
So it's, in other words,
it's not retroactive. So you got a bamboo situation now.
my bamboo's grandfather, right?
Well, you got the Virginia creeper.
I got it all, Todd. I got it all. I hate to do stuff like that when I say stuff like that, but there's at some point, I'm into, green and all that stuff, but at some point, the green gets a little. It's too green at my house. I've got to bring in the Grim Reaper and do some.
Isn't it amazing
do some
with
work.
bamboo how just how invasive?
And not only that, you have to
it
appreciate you can't appreciate how fast it grows.
Oh.
There's also a vine. I think I've got it over there. It's called a mile a minute. And it's basically it'll grow, it can grow a foot in a day. And bamboo is very similar. It can grow 2 or 3 inches in a day. Because I'm telling you, 2 weeks ago I went out there, it wasn't really a problem. I went out there yesterday and went, it's a problem. It's a problem.
You said a foot a day?
Yeah, there's some vines that'll grow a foot a day. I'm sure there's stuff that grows
That
faster.
would be
than that.
fascinating. Just to,
You could damn near watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could put a ruler down there and just kind of sit there and focus on it. I don't know which would be more entertaining, that or paint drying, but they're in the same ballpark of sources of entertainment.
all right, Riggo. We're not going to do anything about the Commanders because I think we're at a stage in a situation. I'm sure your mother, my mother, all the great mothers out there, mothers, you don't have anything nice to say about somebody. Just keep your damn mouth shut. Because this stadium smoke screen and the bullshit going on that's going to be down in Dumfries, that wouldn't happen in a million years. Ain't going to happen. It's a smoke screen.
What's that to scare everybody?
Yeah, and
So
it's all a game of poker, and it's a PR move. And so what? First off, it was an option to buy the land. It hasn't officially been purchased. And so what if they buy it? What's the one thing that never goes out of style? Dirt, real estate, right? So even if you want to invest it,
It could be an investment.
it's all BS. Now what? There's so many different moving parts with that organization. We'll put a small bow on this, but I will tell you what you need to keep your eye on. John Gruden's little lawsuit.
Right.
He had a big day in Nevada yesterday, and that thing's about to get real. There's about to be some major discovery, and I got to believe the puckering out in Ashburn just went, a small another notch, if you
Possibly.
will, possibly.
I'm not only there, but up in New York. The league's got some exposure, I would think, because that's one thing they've been able to manage all these years is keeping everything out of the court system. I don't know. I'm sure there's been some stuff, but it's always a matter of discovery, which nobody has ever seen. There's several of these things that happened in the last several years. I think one of them was the name and likeness. There was never any discovery on that, and it just stopped. Oh well, that was not a good deal. I mean, in other words, there was a little bit of, I would say, well, I don't want to say it because maybe I'd be liable for making some kind of a statement.
What'd you say?
Yeah, exactly. But liable, no, I would be. What's the other one? It's not liable, is written.
Slander?
I might slander somebody. But it wasn't a good thing at all. But there was never any discovery on it. I don't think was the concussion stuff. There was never any discovery on that, was there?
Well, eventually what happens is you keep pounding, you better have the resources to go after them to really take it that far, and then they end up settling, then they get religion. I tell you what the big one was Stan Kroenke, who was about to break bad amongst the other owners because of him moving the team out to L.A. and St. Louis sued them, and that was about to get wiggy. And
because other owners were having to pay his freight.
Yes, and then he came back to him and said, well, hey, it's actually a lot more money now. You all need to pony up. So that, I think that's been settled since, but it was going to the discovery phase and some bad stuff, and the league does not want that out there. That's the one thing they do control. So, and these are major publications reporting that they believe the leak on these emails
Came from Ashburn.
Came from Ashburn.
Exactly.
Came from
Go
Ashburn.
figure.
So it was a big day for Gruden legally.
Let me ask you this: why would Ashburn leak that stuff? What was it? What was to be gained?
Well, if you recall, and
did it have something to do with Bruce Allen?
Yes, but even yes, John, and even more so, you can't keep up with the malfeasance that goes on out there. If you recall. The Washington Post had come out with another article. Their hair was on fire out there again, and this was another misdirection, so they thought.
You're talking about way back when this stuff was.
It was a year ago.
Yeah, when
just
all this
a year
stuff
ago,
came out.
and let's see, we're in May, and you literally can't keep up with it. It was a series of boom, 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 and then this kind of put them on the back burner again.
Right.
And.
Yeah, when I heard the news yesterday that the NFL had been rebuffed in court and that was actually, no, we're going forward with this. There ain't going to be no, arbitration on this.
Right.
And I thought, because interesting enough, Ron Rivera, he received an award at the Gridiron Greats in Chicago last week.
Yeah.
And I went over and I talked to Coach Rivera for a little bit. And he doesn't deserve what he's signed on for, a poor guy. I mean, I actually feel badly for him, because how do you? I don't know. You do like anything else. You go with the trench. What do you call it? Trench mentality. You just focus. Don't
on what
look,
you can control and the task at hand.
Exactly, and that's what he's hired to do as coach. That's what he's going to do. But there's no way that you get out of it because of the oink factor. You're going to get oink on you. There's just no other way around it.
Well, I mean, that's just reality in 20 plus years.
But then again, let me say this. Now, let me just finish. I don't know. I'm guessing he's making $5 million a year.
I believe it's 5.
5. I'll get oink for $5 million. You can put oink on me. I'll sign up for it. You would sign up for oink.
I can do it for a lot less.
So the more I think about it,
a lot less.
$5 million, that covers a lot of oink in my opinion.
But that's all, folks.
There you go. That's the way you put it.
All right, so just keep an eye on the Gruden and the trail and all these satellites that are out there. Forget your stadium bullshit and nonsense, because that's not going to happen, all right? It's a misdirection.
Once again, I got a question for you. What do you think in the big picture happens with the Gruden trial? There's got to be some people that are sitting there going, well, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? I mean, are they just, they almost have to roll over and say, okay, John, what do you want? Let's not do this.
Again, a game of poker, because he's, I think he's suing for $150 million or something.
And I think Goodell personally as well. Goodell's on the line.
Yeah, so Gruden's sitting in a really good seat. He is sitting, because how far do we want to peel back the layers of the onion here and really go with the league? Washington, the Raiders.
Yeah, it really gets down to, is he feeling plucky today? Is he feeling, what do you call it, where you want to get even with somebody? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if he wants to, he can play it all the way out. My guess is that won't happen. I'm going to guess there's going to be some kind of a settlement, and it'll be sooner rather than later. But who knows? I mean, I wouldn't want to take a bet one way or the other.
It's all about the volume of the noise and the satellites that are out there that surround this franchise continue to. So we're gonna leave it at that. And they're having OTAs right now. And
did they just start?
They did.
OTAs just started.
They started this week. All right, John, let's pivot to a little baseball. I'm going to get you up to speed on a couple of things here, because I know you have not been paying attention. You're a working man. You've been traveling. You've been rocking and rolling. I've been to a number of Nats games with our good buddy Cecil, and it's going to be a long season out at Nats Park. Gonna be a long one. It is not good.
Well, okay, you're a baseball guy. How do you fall so far out of grace from what? 3 years ago they won the World Series, or 2 years ago?
No, it's at least 3 now.
Oh,
yeah, it's 3.
It's 3 years ago.
Caps won it.
And they did the same thing, right?
The Caps, they tried to keep their old team together, and they've been bounced in the first round of the playoffs the last 4 years now since winning the Cup. So I think
and then they won the World Series the year after they won the Cup.
Yeah, so it's further than we think, because the damn pandemic took 2 years out of our lives.
Yeah.
And I keep getting lost in time with that. But we knew last year,
When they started farming all their best talent out.
When you got rid of Scherzer, everybody understood it because it was towards the end when teams are gearing up for the playoffs and who's legit and who's not, and Scherzer's contract coming due and blah, blah, blah. Everybody got Max, got him. But once you got rid of Trey Turner, too, because everybody thought it was Trey Turner and Juan Soto, and that's your franchise you build around for the next 10 years, period. So that was the head scratcher. So now you go back and you hear legitimately that the Lerners are they're shopping this franchise to be sold.
So had enough baseball.
So it's still fun to go to the park, but you don't know a lot of these players.
It's like you're watching AAA or AA or something like that.
And they're just bad. They're bad right now. And so let's see if they got any juice and the young talent that they'll bring up and see what's going on there. But across the board in Major League Baseball, but the Nats are one of the worst in the league right now.
And Baltimore, how they play?
Baltimore actually is surprising people. Baltimore with lower third payrolls in all of Major League Baseball. I think their payroll is 31 or 33 million.
Well, we know of Baltimore, that would make
Max
sense.
Scherzer's one contract is
almost as much as their entire team, isn't it?
It is. It's more. It's actually more. I believe he's 43
good
million.
to be Max
But Baltimore
Scherzer.
is surprising people and actually playing halfway decent baseball.
How's the Mets doing? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, the Mets are getting it done. The Mets are
So
playing.
Buck's got it going on up in New York.
Yep, Mr. Showalter, they're right up there. So home runs are being they're hit at their lowest rate in nearly a decade, and this is courtesy of Jeff Tracy from Axios. We give credit where credit is due when we use some of the stats. So check this out, John. So, Major League Baseball has always been accused of manipulating the baseball, right? So they can, and this is the one thing about.
In other words, what the ball will actually physically capable of doing.
100%.
In other words, they start messing with the physics of baseball.
So check this out. Now, all 30 ballparks are storing the baseballs in humidors. So you got your cigars, you got your baseball. Cigars, baseball. And this is to standardize the amount of moisture. And one astrophysicist believes that this is causing the decreased offensive output. Or as Brewers designated hitter Andrew McCutchen told ESPN, the ball ain't the same as it used to be. So there's always been about the balls were juiced,
right.
The balls are dead, and it goes in cycles, right?
Well, this goes back 70 years.
Yes.
80 years. We had, didn't they call it they had the era of the lively ball or something?
100%.
Was that back when Babe Ruth was playing, when they had the lively ball, or which way, or did the lively ball was the later?
It's come and gone. You're exactly right. Sometimes then the pitchers know it, then the hitters know it, and
you don't think it could be the placebo effect, do you? These guys just ain't making the same contact.
Nah, because you played baseball but isn't it fascinating? This is why
I spent all my time in a dugout when I was in the batter's box. Here comes another. Steve Right? Okay. It's funny we're talking about this because I happened to meet Bert Blevins.
Bert Blyleven, the great pitcher.
Yeah, exactly. Born in the Netherlands. He's Netherlands. Anyway, it's kind of interesting. So I started looking at some of his stuff, and I think it was Brooks Robinson, or was it Ted Williams? One of them. I don't know. He would have been old enough to play against Ted Williams, I don't think, but said that his curveball. He had a curveball. I guess it was just
scary,
wicked.
Yeah,
I mean wicked.
Yeah,
I can't imagine. And you're a baseball player, and you fancy yourself as a stick. I'd like to see old Todd Stewart get it. I would admit, Bert, I'm not even going to get up to the plate. I don't even want to see your curveball.
I will tell you, I was 19, and there was a guy that was AAA with the Yankees, whose name escapes me at the moment, but I was playing against him in a summer league game, and he threw me a major league curveball, and I screamed. I'm sitting there, and I thought it was going to.
How'd he do that?
And I was like, ah!
You know, they say, but I could never figure it out. And I had good eyes, too. You know, it's all about the spin on the ball. And I'm thinking, you know, they said Ted Williams. And Ted Williams had, what, 2010 vision or something like that.
Better than that. John, they did the same thing with me. They tested my eyes. I was 25.
What?
I was 25. I could
Why are you
pick
sitting
out-
here with a mic? You should be out there hitting, doing something.
25. My eyesight was incredible. I still screamed.
There's eagles flying around that wish they had your eye. But that's, I get it. I mean, when you saw it, so then, I mean, it was just the first one you saw. After that, you went,
Like we've all seen curveballs.
Yeah.
You know, curveballs.
Like you said, a major league
This
curveball.
was major league, and the break on, I swear it was going to hit me in the head or the shoulder. And I was like, ah!
You know, it makes me wonder because, like I said, my older brother, he probably had, you know, things gone differently for him, probably could have been a major league pitcher, but he hurt his arm in football his freshman year when he went to college. And I've told you this, I've probably told people, they're probably tired of hearing me tell this story.
No.
And, you know, of course, because Lisa Marie, anytime I start a story, she said, "Oh, you've told me that before." It's like, okay.
Well, that's love. That's marriage.
Thank you for being so interested in what I have to say. But he had some serious heat. Back in those days, I don't know, the radar guns, I'm sure they had them, but you didn't, you know, I never did know how fast he threw. But trust me, he had what it took to play. Because I've told you this story before. The other pitcher in Kansas at that time, well, there were several of them, actually. Ron Schuler was one of them from Hayes. I think he was actually from a little town called Victoria. He was real close to Hayes, Kansas, and he played for the White Sox for years and actually managed maybe. I know he coached for a while at that level. He was one of the pitchers. And Mike Torres.
I remember Mike, yeah.
Mike Torres, he played for, you know, won two
Baltimore,
games in the World's, what was it, the 77 World Series for the Yankees. And, you know, they make all, and Frank had that kind of, you know, he had that, but he didn't even have a curveball. He had a fastball and a change. My dad said, "You can't throw a curveball. You're going to ruin your arm. It will ruin your arm." Well, he ruined his arm playing football, Pops. How's that go? Okay. But anyway, my point is, so my dad was, honest to God, I never thought about it to this day. He was scared. My dad was scared, so he chummed me, and, you know, you don't want to disappoint your dad, so I was in there, come on. Had this crappy old catcher's mitt, and that probably was the worst part, was getting hit, you know, catching the ball and your hand just getting crushed. Because at noon every day we'd go out and he'd come home, my dad'd come home for lunch, we got inside the house and Frank would start throwing and I'd start catching, you know, bouncing in front of me, hitting me, and, you know, it was like, so where I was going to go with this, if a guy was fearless, which I wasn't, I mean, I was a hell of a hitter, but after I got done with the Frank treatment, I was like wanting to be in the dugout. You know, anybody that had, now you throw, you know, a pitcher that just threw, you know, meatballs. I mean, I could just tear the cover off.
Well, that's just it. If you're getting fastballs, eventually you'll time it and figure it out.
Yes, exactly. But some fastballs, and Frank had a fastball that moved around.
There's some movement on it.
Exactly.
But when you can throw in a slider, a sinker, or a curveball. And that was the thing. It was the first time I saw the real deal. And you got to get used to it. And that's when the vision and everything else comes in, which is why it's still the hardest goddamn thing to do and be successful, where you fail 7 out of 10 times and you're a hero because you're hitting 300.
Yeah, well, that's all true. You know, now we're talking about this, I just recently, and I don't know how I got it, because I get on the Wikipedia stuff and I start looking at it. Somehow I got to reading about Bob Feller. Played for the Indians for years. And it's kind of an interesting story about it. Do you realize he was pitching in the major leagues at age 17?
Yes.
Age 7, and smoking people? I mean, he was, he's one of the best pitchers of all time.
Let me tell you
something. I think maybe Ted Williams commented on Bob Feller, and maybe it was his because his fastball, was all over the place.
Let me tell you something, John. It's about 25 years ago now, I had the opportunity to play golf in the Major League Baseball alumni tournament here at Andrews Air Force Base with Bob Feller. And you talk about a hoot and an old coot and just a great guy, oddly built, long legs, long arms, and that arm was just like a whip. And I'm playing with Doc Walker, our buddy Doc Walker, and Smoking Al Koken and Bob Feller. And Doc was just kind of taking up the game of golf at that time, and Bob's
had played.
he had the old school golf glove where the fingers are cut off and the button up here, and he's like, "Come on, guys!" And he was barking at us, and Doc dribbles his first tee shot off. His next tee shot, he goes, "God damn it! Have you ever played this game? You gonna be like this all day?" And I'm sitting there crying. Bob was talking smack. He brought it. But a great guy telling us stories, and research bullet Bob Feller, and a guy that could bring it at 100 miles an hour. And they weren't, there wasn't all this 5 and 6 days rest and this and go old school.
And pitch the whole game.
Yeah.
Pitch 9 innings.
Different time, different day, different era. So, baseball, to me, what is fascinating about this, here's your number one piece of equipment, right? That and your bat, right? You went through the corked bat thing, what everybody thought bats, and they think they saw how they x-ray bats, they do all this. This is why Deflategate, and I've always laughed at Deflategate, with Brady and the balls and this amount of pressure. Tom Brady would have beat you with a Nerf football, a flattened football, or whatever.
Right, they were getting their butts kicked that day.
Yeah.
They're making different.
And so, but here is baseball. This is always a continuous theme of something. What's up with the ball? And it's almost like, which way do they want to go with this? Which way do they want to go with this?
Going back to what I originally started off, and then, as everybody knows by now that watches our show, that I go every place, and then sometimes I don't go back to what I was saying. But what I was going to say is, if you were absolutely fearless, got into and didn't even care, where you just go, you could have Bob Feller, you take his 100-mile-an-hour fastball, and you take it on the chin, and you just go, "Is that all you got, Bob? Come on, show me a fastball." I mean, if you had that kind of mentality where you were just, I've got to believe, because I got to believe, maybe not. I'd have to. Would they ever admit it? Would a batter ever say, "Well, I got to tell you, I get every once in a while"? I mean, would Mickey Mantle have ever said, "Oh, they get high and tight"? I mean, I get a little nervous on that, but I don't know. I mean, it's just like everybody's, I admit that I was a coward. I go up there and I go, "Harry Carson, not him again." But, I mean, that's what I'm doing on the inside. On the outside, I'm doing Mike Tyson. Inside, "Oh, Harry, don't hurt me."
Well, it's true because, and that's why I say with guys, I know one gentleman in particular who, one of my very good friends growing up, and his dad was with the Detroit Tigers, and made it to the bigs, and after might have even been his first year or second year, got beamed, and was never the same. Because that gets you. You're talking about life, and that's
when
why.
You say beamed, you meant hitting the head.
Hitting the head, and
I was always the shot in the shot in the ribs was scared me to death. I didn't want to think about getting hit in the head.
Yeah.
In fact, for me, getting hit in the head would have been a lot easier than getting hit in the ribs.
All right, Riggo, we'll close out this thing because this got my attention. We got to, because olfactory, the senses, and I know you've told many stories that you smell certain things and it takes you back to a moment in time. Freshly cut grass.
Oh, yeah.
The start of football season.
Freshly cut grass today, if you play the Star Spangled Banner at the same time, I'll get goosebumps.
Yeah.
Automatic.
So
that's what they play.
This is courtesy of the New York Times, and a contingent of Major League Baseball players, mostly Latin Americans, they have a daily ritual that you wouldn't expect on a baseball diamond. They wear cologne and perfume when they play.
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
So Yuli Gurriel of the Astros, he says, when people go to work, they get ready and dress up. I see it like that. This is my job, and I like to look good, and I like to smell good, too. Mariners third baseman, Eugenio Suarez. If I don't have perfume on, I feel strange.
Perfume. He doesn't call it cologne.
He calls it perfume.
All right.
And he said it's a common practice in Latin America that's spilled onto the field, and it's something cultural. So, what do you think? I mean, I don't see many guys in any of the Hogs.
That would be something, wouldn't it, if all the Hogs had cologne on when they went out on the field? I don't believe they did. I'm not a cologne guy. Are you?
Occasionally, not often.
I don't have.
Occasionally.
When I was in high school, I had all that stuff.
Did you?
I had
karate.
I had this one. Listen, I had this one that I thought, this is the best. But it was really the name. You know what the name of the cologne was?
Drakkar Noir. Brute by
You ready for
Fabergé.
this? Tiger Sweat. Ha ha.
Oh, get
You
outta
put
here.
on Tiger Sweat, and the girls are just gonna
Come
flock
on,
to
man.
you.
That's out of one of the movies there.
I'm serious.
With Panther.
This stuff was Tiger. That's back when Brute was big.
Brute by Fabergé.
Joe, he put on
Little
Brute. and all that.
Aquavelva.
I was wearing Tiger Sweat. Yeah, that's what it was. All right, Toddy. I think we better go. Bye-bye. Riggo out.